What if you could face life's absolute worst moments with unbreakable calm? What if you had a timeless toolkit that made you practically immune to the chaos of modern life? For thousands of years, a group of ancient philosophers, the Stoics, did just that. And they didn't do it by suppressing their emotions or turning into unfeeling statues. Instead, they mastered them with reason, clear judgment, and a deep understanding of what they could and couldn't control. Stoicism teaches us that our most destructive emotions are really just the product of bad judgments. So, let's break down 6 of the most powerful emotions the Stoics learned to manage, and how you can use their brilliant techniques to build your own inner fortress against the turbulence of the 21st century. First up is perhaps the most destructive emotion of all, anger. Seneca the Younger called it a temporary madness, a passion that, if you let it run wild, harms you far more than the person it's aimed at. Just think of the blinding rage of a driver who gets cut off in traffic, or the bitter resentment that festers after a petty online argument. These reactions don't solve anything, they become the problem. The Stoics saw anger not as some uncontrollable force, but as the result of a faulty judgment. It pops up when we believe we've been wronged, and it feeds a desire for revenge. But the Stoics ask us to hit the pause button and question that feeling. Is this offense really a catastrophe, or is it just an inconvenience? The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" He knew the real damage wasn't the external event, but the internal corrosion caused by our own rage. The Stoic technique here is to create a little space between the trigger and your response. When you feel that anger rising, just pause. Take a breath. Seneca advised delaying your reaction because a little time has a way of revealing the truth. In that pause, you can reframe the whole situation. Marcus Aurelius gave himself this advice: choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. This isn't denial. It's you making a conscious choice to not let an outside event poison your mind. Next, let's talk about fear. Fear is the great paralyzer. It's that little whisper of what if that stops us from taking risks, speaking our truth, or chasing our dreams. We're scared of failure, of rejection, of the unknown. And yet, as the Stoics pointed out, we so often suffer more in our imagination than we ever do in reality. Stoicism makes a brilliant distinction. There's the initial, instinctive flinch, that jump you can't avoid, and then there's the story you tell yourself about it. That first jolt is out of your control, but the fear that follows is a choice, a product of your judgment. We dream up these terrible futures and then start living as if they're already here. The primary Stoic tool against fear is something called premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. It sounds grim, but its purpose is actually profound. By calmly and rationally thinking about worst-case scenarios, losing your job, facing criticism, things going sideways, you strip them of their power to terrorize you. You're rehearsing adversity so that if it ever shows up, it's not a shocking disaster, but an expected challenge. As Seneca advised, we shouldn't be unhappy before a crisis even arrives, since the things we're scared of might not happen at all. For a Stoic, true courage isn't being fearless. It's the ability to act with reason and virtue in spite of fear. The third emotion is one we're all guaranteed to face: grief. That profound sadness that follows a loss can feel like a wound that will never, ever heal. It takes over our thoughts and drains all the color from the world. While our culture often pushes us to just move on or be strong, Stoicism offers a much more thoughtful path. The Stoics taught that this deep sorrow comes from being intensely attached to things that are, by their very nature, temporary. We suffer because we forget that everything we cherish, our health, our belongings, even the people we love, is ultimately on loan from the universe. We don't really own any of it. Now, this isn't meant to sound cold or detached, just the opposite. It actually allows us to love more freely without that crippling fear of loss hanging over our heads. The Stoic way to manage grief isn't to bottle it up, but to accept the natural order of the world. When sadness arrives, you're encouraged to sit with it, to observe it without judgment, almost like you're watching a cloud pass by. Let yourself feel it, but don't let it become your entire reality. This approach keeps grief from hardening into a permanent sense of victimhood. It honors the pain of what you've lost without you losing yourself in the process. Number 4 is a special poison of our modern age: envy. In a world of perfectly curated social media feeds, it's dangerously easy to look at other people's lives and feel like you're falling behind. We see their wins, their picture-perfect relationships, their shiny new things, and we feel that bitter sting of resentment. Envy whispers that their gain is somehow our loss. The Stoics called envy a destructive passion that's rooted in a lie. It appears when we mistakenly believe that external things like money, fame, or social approval are the ultimate prizes in life. So when someone else gets those things, it feels like a personal attack. But the Stoics would argue that the only true good is virtue, your own moral character and rational mind. Everything else is basically neutral. The antidote to envy, then, is to shift your focus inward. Instead of comparing your life to theirs, compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Is your character a little stronger? Are your judgments a bit clearer? Are you living more in line with your own values? Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to focus on his own path. When you see others succeed, a Stoic doesn't see a reason for bitterness. Their success doesn't take away from your ability to work on your own virtue. In fact, since we're all part of one human community, their success can be seen as a win for everyone. Your peace of mind doesn't come from having what they have, but from mastering what you have, your own thoughts and your own actions. The 5th emotion is the thief of the present moment: worry and anxiety. It's the mental habit of living in a future that hasn't happened, endlessly looping through what-if scenarios that just leave us exhausted. We worry about deadlines, about what people think of us, about things that are miles away and might never even happen. Seneca nailed the futility of this when he said, "He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary." Worry is like paying interest on a debt you might not even owe. It's a total misuse of your most precious resource: your attention. The ultimate Stoic weapon against worry is the dichotomy of control. This idea, laid out by the former slave-turned-philosopher Epictetus, is beautifully simple. In any situation, separate what's in your control from what isn't. External events, other people's opinions, the final outcome of your efforts, those things are not entirely up to you, but your own thoughts, your judgments, and how you choose to act, those are yours and yours alone. When you feel worry creeping in, just ask yourself, is the thing I'm worrying about actually in my control? If the answer is yes, then stop worrying and start doing something about it. If the answer is no, then worrying is useless. All you can do is practice acceptance. A great way to do this is to journal. Write down your anxious thoughts, pick them apart, and separate the facts from the fear. And the final emotion is one that grinds us down on a daily basis: frustration. It's that feeling you get when reality just refuses to cooperate with your plans. The traffic jam that makes you late, the Wi-Fi dropping during a huge meeting, the person who doesn't act the way you think they should. These little setbacks can pile up into a constant state of irritation. Frustration comes from a simple, flawed belief: the idea that the world is supposed to be easy and cater to our every wish. When it doesn't, we feel personally wronged. But Marcus Aurelius saw this completely differently. He famously wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That obstacle isn't some unfair roadblock on your path. It is the path. The Stoic answer to frustration is to embrace reality and shift your perspective. Instead of fighting what's happening, you accept it for what it is. Your flight is cancelled, that's a fact. Getting angry won't change it. The next, most important step is to ask, okay, so what's my next move? This question instantly transforms you from a passive victim into an active problem solver. It turns frustration into a trigger for creativity. As Marcus Aurelius taught, it's not events themselves that bother us, but our judgments about them. Change your judgment and you rob frustration of all its power. So those are 6 powerful emotions the Stoics refused to let run their lives: anger, fear, grief, envy, worry, and frustration. The core promise of Stoicism isn't a life without feelings, but a life where you aren't a slave to your feelings. It's the radical idea that while we can't control the chaotic world around us, we can always control our response to it. By using these techniques, by pausing before you react, imagining adversity, accepting what you can't change, focusing inward, and treating obstacles as opportunities, you can build an unconquerable inner citadel. This is a fortress that provides calm in the middle of any storm and clarity in the face of chaos. The power to reach this state of inner peace, what the Stoics called apatheia, or equanimity, doesn't come from changing the world. It comes from mastering your perception of it. And that choice, as the Stoics taught us more than 2,000 years ago, is always yours. If this video helped you, please give it a like and subscribe for more practical Stoic wisdom. And be sure to check out our other video on the daily habits of a Stoic to keep building that inner strength.